Hello, I'm Locke Meredith. I'd like to invite you to join me on the next Legal Lines with Judge Tony Marabella. Judge Marabella heads up the drug court, and it's a court that's set aside to deal with folks who have addictions. And not everybody gets to go in, but it's very successful. So join us on the next Legal Lines with Judge Tony Marabella talking about the drug court. Welcome to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Very pleased to have on the show today Judge Tony Marabella. Judge Marabella is currently heading up the drug court and also carrying a criminal docket. Judge, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Locke. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's talk about it because it's kind of a unique deal. As I understand it, we've got several different judges who handle criminal dockets, but you, in addition to that, handle a drug court docket.
Yes. Back in 1992, the 19th Judicial District established a drug court, what we called a drug court back then. And what the drug court concept was back then was a fast prosecution court. They wanted all of the drug cases to go to one court, and so they could prosecute people as quickly as they can.
Bogging down the system?
Because it was bogging down the system. What was happening was, in the normal sections of court, you were having armed robbery trials and murder trials taking precedent over drug cases. And drug cases were just getting strung out, and they weren't working. It wasn't working. They weren't moving very fast.
And no accountability, I guess.
No accountability, exactly. So they changed that, and I think it was Judge Foxy Sanders took over the drug court initially. And they worked it that way for a couple of years, and then Judge Downing took it over. As this was happening, there was a big movement all over the country about a model drug court.
I remember that.
They were talking about treatment, and they were talking about people who were drug addicts and how to really deal with the drug problem.
In fact, Judge Downing, I remember, went on Oprah or something.
Judge Downing actually sat on the drug court 2 separate times. And Judge Saya, who recently passed away, was also a drug court judge. And then in 1997, when Judge Morvant got elected, Judge Morvant took over what was then the drug court. In 1997, the state legislature, recognizing the drug court model and all that was going on around the country, passed the statute. It's Title 13 in the Louisiana Revised Statutes, and it established a drug division in each judicial district in Louisiana, and it was up to the judges of those districts to decide whether or not they wanted to have a drug division. And it's outlined as to how it works and who's to come in and how you're to come in. And the way it works is that the district attorney, when they review cases, they determine whether or not someone is eligible for the drug court.
And I guess that makes sense because they're the first in the process.
And it's what we call a post plea. People don't come into our drug court unless they plead guilty. The district attorney reviews a file, and they determine whether or not they believe the person is eligible for drug court, or they want to recommend them. Once they're recommended, our drug court team, our treatment team, does an evaluation to determine whether or not they're a drug addict or a drug abuser. Because we don't take dealers. We only want people who qualify clinically to come into the drug court. And once that's done, if they agree to come into the drug court, we take their plea. They all come into my section of court. I take the plea, and then they come into the drug court. The East Baton Rouge Parish Drug Court is really a partnership between the district attorney's office, the public defender's office, the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office, the probation office, because we have 2 probation officers that work strictly for us in drug court, and the 19th JDC. And the citizens of East Baton Rouge Parish. It is. It's a lot of people, and we all work together, and it's really worked well. Where we've come from now, this was really, Judge Morvant actually began this process. He didn't really he didn't follow the Title 13 as we're following it now, but when they first put that statute in place, he basically did an outline of that, and that's how he did it. And we've just improved on it, or tried to improve on it. But I want to say up front, without Judge Morvant's work, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We've come a long way.
That's great. Well, so who are the parties involved in the initial analysis? I guess since you said the sheriff and the police.
What'll basically happen? We have an advisory committee, and I meet fairly regularly with the district attorney's office, the sheriff's office, the parish police, the city police officers, and what they've done, and they've suggested to us, and it makes perfect sense. I should have realized this, and maybe I even knew this, but one of the things that they suggested, and the law provides for this, is it's not just people who are arrested on drug charges that have a drug problem. people who are getting arrested for burglaries or thefts, they're stealing money to support their drug habit. Statistics show that 86% of all crimes committed in East Baton Rouge Parish, and it's not unusual, that statistic is pretty clear nationally, is either alcohol or drug related.
It's amazing.
Either they're stealing money to get drugs. It's a tremendous problem.
So the root, I mean, statistically, if you look at that, the root of our crime explosion is related to addiction.
Is the drug problem, and I think that's what this drug court model years ago recognized. Now, the other thing, and let me say this, because this is also a concern of the district attorney, the court, as well as the sheriff's office and the city police and the citizens of the parish. While we have the drug court, there are also drug dealers. And what we have done, what happened was 2.5 years ago, we had a number of evaluations done on our drug court. And for the last 4 years preceding 2004, it was recommended to us that we not have one court with all of the drug cases.
Overwhelming.
It was overwhelming. It just wasn't working. All of the drug courts that had a drug court similar to ours, that one judge prosecuted all of the cases, they didn't work anymore. All over the country, they quit doing that. Louisiana had several, they quit doing it. We were the last ones that still did it. And in 2004, the judges of the 19th JDC voted to decide that what we were going to do is we were going to redistribute all of the drug cases just like we do every other criminal case. And that is, for example, I'm Section 1, Section 1 of the criminal docket. I have a duty week every 8 weeks. I'm in an 8-week rotation. We have eight criminal judges. I'm in an 8-week rotation. Whatever happens during that week that I'm on duty comes into my section. If it occurs during that week, it comes into my section.
That's how it's allocated.
That's how they're allocated. So every drug case that occurs during my drug week, my duty week,
if you get busted during Judge Tony Marabella's week,
they come into my court for prosecution. Now, if they're ultimately determined that they're eligible for the drug court and they can come into the drug court, because we don't take anybody with crimes of violence, we don't take anybody with a serious history. There's certain eligibility requirements.
Which I think is important to the folks probably listening to this.
It is very important.
These are folks who, I guess, are determined to have a chance of getting over this.
This is the thing. If they have gotten prior serious criminal history, they're not allowed to come in. And the big thing that helps here, I think that the public feels very comfortable about and the legislators feel very comfortable about, is the district attorney is the gatekeeper. If the district attorney says no, you don't come in. So it just stops there. If the DA decides, well, this is someone we want prosecuted, they stay in one of the 8 criminal sections of the court. And what we have done as judges, we have agreed with the sheriff's office and the police and the DA that we will put a priority on those drug cases. Drug cases in my court get priority. In my normal section of court, you can get a jury trial within 2 months. We try drug cases. If a drug case is going to be tried, it's not put on the back burner. And all of the judges made a commitment when we changed over to do that, and we're doing that.
And the reason for expediting it is what?
Well, the reason for expediting the drug cases is because they were sitting on the back burner. And if a person is a drug dealer or a drug dealer or a violent criminal, that person needs to be prosecuted and moved away. Okay. I mean, it's not helping anybody. He's not getting probation. He's going to jail, so you need to move that case. And that's what the sheriff's office and the narcotics office needs as well.
All right. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, very pleased to have on the show Judge Tony Marabella, and we're talking about the drug court. It's a very specific part of our criminal justice system that deals with folks who are addicted, frankly. Judge, let's talk about the criteria a little bit. And I know you've hit on it. They can't have a violent criminal record. Right. There's certain things that just exclude them from this program.
Correct.
And those are violent.
You cannot be convicted of a violent crime. You can't have a violent convicted. You can't have a pending charge of a violent crime pending. If you happen to have more than one conviction, if it's a burglary of an inhabited dwelling or some sort of a case like that, you can't come into drug court. And if you have any, and these are misdemeanors sometimes, but if you have any sort of a domestic violence charge pending against you, you can't come into drug court.
So those automatically exclude you. There's nothing you can do about it. You're out.
Nothing you can do about it.
And there's a reason for that.
Well, that's right. We don't want those sort of persons have already had their opportunity. What the drug court is about, the drug court is rehabilitating and helping those addicted abusers who have committed nonviolent crimes so we can get them back into society. A violent criminal, generally speaking, may or may not change his stripes.
And the bottom line is, statistically, it's being shown that when you deal with the addiction, you killing the root.
There's no question about that.
So let's talk about it. So the DA recommends it. You guys okay it after a review by your experts? Or
Yes. We have a treatment team. They're addiction specialists. They do an evaluation to determine whether or not that person is truly an addict or an abuser. And if they are, then they're qualified to come into the program.
Now, if they're just an abuser, I guess you're educating me a little bit. An addict means they can't stop, or they want to, can't do it. Abuser, are they just doing it socially?
An addict can't stop. An abuser... An addict is a person, for example, that will go on binges. They just cannot stop. They have cravings that will not subside. The reason we want to know whether they're an addict or an abuser is that I will treat them differently when it comes time to sanction them.
I see. So it doesn't mean they're necessarily out of the program.
No. We try to designate them. So an abuser and an addict are the ones that we allow into the program. And what happens and what makes the drug programs around the country work so well is what everyone has decided is the judicial intervention. And what happens is we have presently 115 people in our drug treatment court.
115?
115. I see them every Friday. I meet every Friday morning with our treatment team, which consists of about 5 counselors, and our treatment director and our treatment coordinator. And we go over every one of those cases, and they tell me how they're doing, what's going on with them. We discuss how they are, whether they're working, where they're working, whether they've relapsed, what all's going on. I then call them up in court every Friday, and if they've done something wrong, for example, if they're an abuser, for example, let's use an abuser. We have certain expectations that we believe people should meet in the first day they walk into drug court. We don't expect a drug addict to quit doing drugs the moment he walks into the drug court, but we expect him to show up for meetings. We expect him to do everything else they're supposed to do. If they don't do those things, they may end up going to jail for a weekend or for a week. With an addict who may relapse, we pour a lot of heavy treatment on them. We make them go to extra meetings. We put them on a more restrictive color code. I may make them do community service. I may not put them in jail the first time they relapse because that's expected of an addict.
It's interesting. What you're telling me is the mindset has changed from, or the perspective from, this is just behavior that they have control over to. This is a disease, and we've got to treat the disease.
There's no question about that. There's no question about that. Now, the abuser, they can stop using drugs. If an abuser comes in and they relapse that first week in there, they may end up doing a week in jail or maybe 2 weeks in jail. So we try to individualize each sanction to the person, and it's real important that they keep me apprised of who these people are, what they're doing. I know more about those 115 people who are in my drug court than I know about any of the other people who come in my court Monday through Thursday.
I bet you do. And so describe the process of analysis. What people specifically do you have, and what are they doing? You talk about the overview of the assessment.
Our treatment team?
Yes, sir.
We have, I want to say, 5 full-time counselors and 2 part-time contract counselors.
And when you say they're counselors, what does that mean?
They're addiction counselors. Most of them are social workers with licenses in addiction work. licensed addiction counselors is what I think they call it. I apologize for not knowing the term. They'll probably shoot me for not knowing it. But in what we do, for example, our program is Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They go to the treatment center. They being the defendants go to the treatment center from 5:30 till 8:30. Every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Big time intense.
It's very, very intense. When I get someone into the drug court, I tell them this is not an easy program. If you think you're coming in here just to kind of beat the system, forget it, because it's hard work and it's very, very intense. And they all have to work too. We require them to work. We require them to go to all their treatment, because if they weren't in the drug treatment court, they'd be in jail. And you know, one of the really nice things that the people like to hear as well is that it costs approximately $5,000 to put someone into the drug treatment court for a year. It costs about $32,000 to incarcerate them for a year.
We just heard
so
that.
So we're really saving a lot of money by going through the drug court. Now, sometimes sometimes they don't make it. And if they don't make it, they get sentenced right in front of everybody else on that Friday in drug court to see it.
So the 5 counselors you have evaluate them, I guess, in different facets of their lives? It's not just addictive behavior?
Well, initially it's an assessment to determine whether or not they have the addictive behavior. And that allows them to come into the drug court. But once they come into the drug court, we tend to any emotional needs they have. If they need to go see a psychiatrist, we send them to a psychiatrist. It's oftentimes we have to send them away for inpatient treatment. Sometimes we send them away. There are a number of places around the state of Louisiana that are inpatient treatment facilities that we can send them to. For example, there's a place called the Hope Center in Marksville that oftentimes, if we need to get someone out of the environment that they're in, we will send them away somewhere. Sometimes it's as few as 30 days. Sometimes it's as long as 6 months. The drug court program itself, if sped through, everything done correctly, could be finished in 12 months. But more often than not, it takes about 18 months for it. The average, I think, would be about 18 months for someone to go through and finish the drug court.
It's a long process.
It is.
And as I understand it, there are actually phases of the care.
There are 4 separate phases of the program. The first phase is the sort of the educational phase. It lasts about 10 weeks. The second phase is the most intense phase, and it lasts from 14 to 16 weeks. The third phase is really a phase to attempt to teach them about relapse and not relapsing. The fourth phase is more about aftercare and what to do when they get out. What we try to do is we try to teach them how to live their life and how to cope with their problems and get a support system while they're in our program.
This is Legal Lines with Locke Meredith and Judge Tony Marabella. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Legal Lines. I'm Locke Meredith. Again, pleased to have on the show Judge Tony Marabella. And we're talking about the drug court and its effectiveness, frankly. Judge, you talked about the different phases, I guess, of folks moving through the system. And as I understand it, you're relying a lot on the experts that the court has chosen to guide you in that process.
I'm not an expert in the treatment field. I rely very heavily on our treatment staff for the treatment response. We actually have 2 responses to a person in drug court. One is the treatment response, and that is to help them. That is to help them clinically with their addiction. The other response is a sanction, and that's what I do, and that's really to help them too, but it's more penal in nature. It's punishment. That's exactly what it is.
So the experts meet weekly?
The experts are there at our facility, which is off of Wooddale Boulevard. They're there 5 days a week.
So folks are coming in every single day.
People come in every single day and work with them all day. They meet with me specifically at 8 o'clock on Friday mornings, and we go for 2 hours. We do staffing. They bring me up to date on what we're going to do in court that day.
So I think you said you had 5 counselors, and each counselor must have, I guess, a docket or a load of clients.
Exactly. We talk about every one of them.
And then every single person, they give you basically, I guess, a poop sheet on.
They do. And what they do, they meet on Wednesday together and individually collectively go
Really?
over everybody's case.
So all hundred and something folks are analyzed by all five of the councils.
Someone will say, I've got this problem, this person's doing such and such, and they will all brainstorm on what we do and how we do it and what we need to do.
It's very interesting.
It's very interesting to watch them work. It's very rewarding to see the way
and then they meet with you each week, and they tell you the collective, and I guess, of course, the individual counselor's opinion as to what this guy needs,
right,
whether it's punishment or encouragement.
And I may question them on that. I may ask some more questions, and I may say, this is what I think I want to do, and they may disagree, and we'll talk about it. And sometimes I follow their recommendations when I say, look, I'm going to put this guy in jail for 2 weeks, and they say, well, Judge, I don't know that jail's going to help him. This is what's going on. I may back off to a week, or I may listen to him, or I may say, no, I think this is what he needs, after I hear from them.
Do you remember these folks?
Pretty much. When they first come in, I don't always remember them. I'm getting old. I don't always remember their names, but I have their picture in their file. Right. When I see that face, I know exactly who it is. Yes.
And of course, I guess you review those files with the individual counselors on
that. I do, and they will call me. I mean, I'm available every day. We communicate by telephone and by email.
So this isn't a once-a-day event for you.
Something might happen in the middle of the week. Somebody may come in and test positive for drugs, and they'll call me and say, Judge, what do you want to do? I'll say, get a probation officer over there and put him in jail. And because they'll always call on me and ask me, what do we do? Judge, we have a situation here. What do you want us to do? And we'll make decisions like that. So we do that a lot. They'll call me a lot of times.
What are the tools that you have available for the encouragement side of this?
Well, the encouragement side...
I guess one, keep out of jail, huh?
Well, the most clear one, of course, is to keep out of jail. What the experts tend to say, especially for a lot of these people, is the verbal encouragement from the court. We try to praise them when they do well. Their families come up and support them when they do well. Oftentimes, if a particular group of people have done real well, I'll call them up first in court on Fridays and let them leave and go on to work and let them do what they need to do. We have, for the last 2 years, I've had sort of a community meeting with all of them. And we get in my courtroom and I take my robe off and I sit down with them and I just ask them. I said, okay, look, what do you think we can do better to help you? Or what sort of rewards would you like? And the majority of them say almost all the time, Judge, we want to know that when we do a good job. We don't want just no notice. In other words, when we're doing a good job, don't ignore us. Call us up and tell us we're doing a good job. And we do that with all of them. I mean, everybody walks up to that microphone on Friday, and it might be, Locke, tell me what's going on with you today. Tell me something good. How you doing? And oftentimes I'll ask them, and a lot of times they'll say, well, Judge, I know where I was last night, and that's a good thing. And I'll ask them, I say, where were you last week? I have no, last year. I was in a ditch, or I was here or there. We had one fella, it was Mother's Day not long ago, and we had a fella come up. I said, what are you doing for Mother's Day? He said, I'm bringing my mother some flowers. I said, you think your mom will enjoy that? He said, yeah, because last year she put me in jail because I stole from her. Mm-hmm. Those are the sorts of things that you see, and it works, and it's encouraging. It's certainly a lot more encouraging than what I do oftentimes on Monday through Thursday.
It sounds like the program's really well received by the folks who are participating in it.
It really is.
I guess in the beginning maybe they're a little leery of it and just maybe even trying to dodge the bullet.
Well, what happens, the Supreme Court has certain guidelines, and they have suggested that we get people in 30 days from their arrest into the drug treatment program. When we took it over a couple of years ago, it was taking 10 and 11 months from the date of arrest to get into the drug treatment court. We worked on that immediately. With the help of the district attorney, with the help of the city police, we were able to cut that down a lot. We've got police officers who write on a police report possible candidate for drug court.
Wow.
So, I mean...
Communication.
And when we see that, we have someone in our office, in my office, who works for the drug court. They review every affidavit of probable cause to determine whether or not this might be someone. They look at their record to see what their history is, and they look and see what the charge is, and if there are any notes from the police saying this might be a drug case. We get that. We pull those immediate affidavits of probable cause that the police write. We send those to the district attorney. Mr. Darwin Miller is our screener in the DA's office. He will look those things over, and within a matter of days, we'll know whether or not we're going to offer them to come into the drug court. And oftentimes, they'll come into the drug court within 2 or 3 weeks after their arrest. When they come into the drug court, we take a picture of them. And when you see the before and the after picture after they've been there about 3 or 4 months in the drug court, it's amazing. They don't even look, some of them do, but most of them don't even look like the same person.
And I guess the tools, the punishment tools, are I'm going to send you to jail, or I'm going to revoke some kind of privileges that they have?
Well, they either do community service, or they go to jail, or there's a revocation center that we can send them to for 90 days. Sometimes I have to put them in Department of Corrections and make them go through the impact program, and then we bring them back into the program.
And the bottom line is, based on your personal experience, it's successful.
It is very successful.
Judge, thank you.